Jay, thanks all for joining us this afternoon. It appears as though many have predicted that the next war, in fact World War III, will not necessarily be about minerals or etc. two warring countries, but rather about the scarcity of this resource, water.
Yes, and that is true. I mean, looking at how the climatic variability is happening now and the predictability, it is going to get to a point where we're going to have to manage our water much better than what we are doing now. So, on the back of this, we as the research and innovation community and the Water Research Commission are holding this fourth edition of this conference to send a message and a signal to policymakers and decision makers that we do have a pool of knowledge and innovations that can respond to overcoming and managing some of these challenges. And it's time they started listening to us, and this platform has been created to share the latest knowledge that is being generated and harnessed in our country.
Let's speak a little bit about this innovation, Jay. I mean, for example, this issue around desalination has been an ongoing debate, especially around the cost of desalination in itself. But I mean, we've got our oceans, for example, that are there for the use. And on the other side of it, just some of the new innovative items that have been introduced and put forward for research purposes. So first, this issue around desalination, is it really something that is feasible, but also around some of those innovative products that you're offering?
So the challenge with desalination is an electricity issue, okay? And, you need a lot of energy to actually produce water through desalination means. But the industry and the technology has been evolving leaps and bounds in reducing the operational costs and the energy requirements. So, it's pushing the barriers of know-how in making it a very sort of recognized solution that would challenge many conventional systems that we tend to use nowadays. So yes, in a very short space of time, desalination could become a very, very viable alternative against some of the solutions we use nowadays.
But then are the policymakers actually listening to this research? Are they taking it into account? Because I will say this, I'm critical of our country for one thing, is that we're fantastic when it comes to policy, but we're often reactive in the way in which we implement certain policies.
Well, I think it's not just the policymakers. I think it's sometimes there's an industry push on a sector that is not ready from a regulatory, from an operation, or even from a management perspective to harness such a technology. So I think we need to ensure that the proper capacities, the governance systems are all in place so that we can manage and regulate such a technology going into the space. But it's also government's role and policymakers' role to enable this market to play a bigger role in the water mix. But it's not the only solution. There are many other solutions that are more cost-effective in overcoming the water challenge.
Yeah. How do we avert a situation, Jay, where we find that, I mean, you're speaking here about regulation, but at the back of regulation is the issue around beneficiation. So in other words, the big sharks end up benefiting at the top. And when it comes to those that are going to be innovative and those that can take the innovation and put it out to market. In other words, leaving those individuals that are, even from the rural outskirts, who've got fantastic ideas, innovative ways of being able to contribute to the water issue and the water crisis in this country, but are being left out simply because they're not playing with the big economic players. So then where does there lie the ability to actually regulate and also ensure that even the smaller players, the individuals that have got the big ideas, are actually sitting at the table instead of it going to one way to the big guys that always end up providing solutions at a really costly expense?
So I'm glad you raised this issue or area. Yes, we term this as what we call sunrise innovation or industries. And, our current policy regimes, etc., tend to focus its economic strategies on the larger, big innovation players, etc. But, South Africa as a country, being amongst the 30th most water stressed in the world. We're also among the top 15 in terms of producing water innovations in the world, okay, which we are not harnessing adequately. So here is an opportunity of using this platform to stimulate an economy, to stimulate an industry, to stimulate many, many new jobs while solving many of the challenges that we have. So at the WRC, and we're having this conference, is to promote this knowledge base and innovations and solutions of all these small innovators waiting to get into the market, sending a signal to policymakers to say, we are here, we can contribute, and we can play a significant role in managing some of the challenges that government is facing. So we have what we call two very significant instruments. One is called the South African Water Technology Demonstration Platform, which assists smaller innovators to go through the pipeline of industrialization and localization, and we help facilitate that with a variety of partners, including the DTI and the Department of Science and Technology. But we also embarking on a radically new industrial opportunity of new sanitation. And as we speak, we have just partnered, and we are about to make a major signing for a funding agreement with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to harness some of those very new solutions that are emerging from their Reinvent the Toilet challenge, and creating an industrial platform that we can localize in South Africa and create the much needed jobs, but also close the gap and backlogs around sanitation. So these ideas are great, but we need greater enablement from the policymakers, from the sector, to allow this market and allow these entrepreneurs to penetrate and help us solve the problem.
Jay, we're going to leave it there for this afternoon, but thanks for joining us and just shedding some light in terms of exactly where are we in terms of finding solutions to some of the water scarcity problems that continue to arise in our country there, and how is it that we can ensure that we've got the smaller players that are coming to the table.